The following content is brought to you by MYND Initiative Incorporated. The opinions expressed in the following conversation are of the hosts and do not in any way represent the opinions of MYND Initiative as a whole. Some themes in this series may be distressing or triggering for some listeners, and so viewer discretion is advised. If any of the content does trigger uncomfortable feelings or cause distress, we encourage you to reach out to us via our Facebook page or seek further support from beyondblue.org or contact Lifeline on 13 11 14 for 24/7 over-the-phone support. We would like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which we all stand, and we extend our respect to the elders, both past and present.
Good evening. Welcome to Does It Mess With Your Mind? I am your co-host, Jason. This is my co-host, Hashida. Hashida, how are you tonight?
I'm doing good, Jason. Running a bit late, but I'm doing pretty good. How are you?
Yeah, I'm fantastic, actually. I'm really looking forward to tonight's episode. After ableism last week, it gave me like a lot of thoughts. And tonight we're going to talk about change. And change is just massive. Like when you think about change, it can be little things, it can be big things, but the way how you perceive change can generate fear or excitement or nervousness and so many different emotions which really push the way how your brain interacts with you when you go through change. So exciting topic. Looking forward to getting into it. How about you? How do you feel about tonight's topic of change?
Change is what made me late today. I'm still coming to terms with the hour I lost because we moved forward. And yeah, I mean, I'm still, struggling with it actually. So getting up in the morning is a bit of a, problem. And then going to sleep is also a bit of a problem. So as much as I love change, looks like, I mean, when it comes to some things, I actually struggle with it. And then I take 6 months to get used to it, and then comes the next change. So it's a cycle, looks like a cycle, like with other things.
Isn't that funny? Like daylight savings, 1 hour, like that change is like so different to you. But if I was to probably put you on a plane and send you to somewhere that you wanted to go, the excitement of being in that different location, you wouldn't even care about the time change difference until you probably started to feel really tired. Like the adrenaline and everything would just push you on.
Yes, I mean, I've had experience. You're right. I mean, I wouldn't know till like on the return journey. Yes, that's when it hits me. I get very excited during the trip, and I sometimes don't sleep much too. And then everything hits me on the way back. Yeah, 1 hour is actually not a big thing, but um, it's how you adapt to change. And first of all, sometimes it's about things that you are in alignment with. For me, I've not made peace with that change. I mean, that's the biggest thing with me. So if I get up 6:30 during for the first 6 months, and when we go back, I get up at 5:30. When we move forward, I get up at 6:30. So technically, I'm not doing much about it. I'm not adapting to it even. I'm just doing the same thing every day. But it doesn't, because our work and life, everything is tied so much together. This 1 hour change, when you're working with people around the globe, some people move forward, some people move backward. And then when we have to connect with them, it changes the balance a lot. So I don't want to get into the discussion where work is life, and I don't want to define it that way right now. But you get it's kind of I wouldn't call it. I mean, it's more than a ripple effect. You get what happens is you get to bed late. Not this is a trigger. It triggers something, and your meetings are running late, and sometimes you have to get up early to meet up with people. So it's all tied together, and then through the day also sometimes you're struggling. Because your body doesn't adapt to the time changes. You're going to feel hungry early, at least in the initial phases. And so every process that leads to you eating, that also needs to happen early. So it's like a small trigger, and then there's another small impact, and it's a small impact, but at the end of the day, right, when you look at it as a whole picture, it is a huge thing for you. um,
I think you're really touching on something there, which is changes to routine. Like when I said I'd chuck you on a plane and send you somewhere else, that's not your normal routine. You're not jumping on a plane every single day. I bet you if you did that every single day for a year, that became your routine, then the change to that routine would suddenly be what you're talking about now, where every single day something is different and you're struggling on that level. One of the big things I could think of is, as you said, like eating, or if you were to change jobs, or if you were to introduce something different into your life, like let's say meditation. Um, you introduce half an hour of meditation. At first, it's probably like exciting. Um, but then when you have to actually find the time to meditate every single day, or a couple of days a week, um, that routine might become mundane. And then you're like, oh, what else could I do in that 30 minutes of time? Prioritizing other things over something that might be really good for you. So yeah, like yeah, I think you've hit on a big thing there, like change in routine versus change that's just exciting and happening. Um, yeah, what do you think?
Uh, I actually touched on two things. Okay, I hate routine. As a person, I like the excitement of having different things every day. Even when I'm cooking, I like cooking different things. But then okay, that as long as the choice is with me, I think that's what it is. I can't explain it in any other way. Why I would not embrace this change wholeheartedly when I do not like routine. But I read somewhere that body likes routine. You may not look like routine as a person, but the body likes routine. It likes doing the same things. It likes going to sleep at the same time every day. It likes waking up at the same time every day. And when I get up in the morning, I get to hear the birds, see the birds. I have some time for myself. I feel sometimes that's lost when the time changes. So that's my dislike towards this particular change. But if I have to move away from the topic of the time change and go into something bigger, uh, it could be maybe, like you said, a change of job. Okay, so okay, let me put this forward question to you because I've been doing all the talking. Um, how do you adapt? A change of job is a big thing. Okay, so um, again, we've gone back to the job situation, but it is a huge thing because it could involve a bunch of other things as well. Maybe it could involve you uprooting yourself from some place you've been in for probably decades, and moving to another city, and moving family, moving house, everything. It could all come with that, or it could be in the same city and you're just moving. So how do you adapt to that? First of all, um, have you changed recently, and how do you adapt to that kind of change? Do you
Yes, I have started a new job recently, and there was a lot of change involved. Probably one of the things before I even started the new job was the recognition that it was going to be hard on me. So I pretty much said straight up, um, this is going to be a hard change. It's going to involve a lot of new things, meeting new people, and I know I'm going to be hard on myself to be impressed with people and try to make social connections, uh, and try to feel like I fit in, even though I've just walked in the door. So I kind of said to myself, you need to be kind to yourself during this period because it's going to be hard and it's going to take time, and you just don't want to rush this. And some of that actually comes off of those kind of fears of not fitting in. Like when you walk into a new workplace, you want to feel like you belong there, but you're the new guy, so you need to understand that situation everyone needs to learn to accept you. You are the new guy, and they're going to go, okay, what's this dude doing here? What skills is he actually bringing? How is he going to improve the place? Um, and yeah, all of those kind of questions I kind of asked myself straight up before I even started the job. Okay, face my fears. These are what my fears are. Be kind to myself, and work through it. I guess for me, there's a level of excitement when you change jobs, but there's a level of nervousness. One of the biggest things for me is about self acceptance. As I said, I'm pretty hard on myself. So I have to actually acknowledge that. Or if I don't acknowledge it, I tend to spiral into a bit of a meltdown. So that's my kind of thing there. I will just be really self-critical, and then be a grub. So yeah, what's your thoughts
On changing jobs or changing houses. I
on
think,
just change in general?
yeah,
How do
I think that,
how do you accept and acknowledge change, like big change that's happening in your life?
see, some of it is good, as in personally. Okay, I'll give you a bit of my background. I'm used to moving places from childhood. My dad had a transferable job, so every 2, 3 years, we used to change houses, schools, and which means friends too. And maybe that's helped me cope a lot. It's made me open to some of the changes. So for example, when I move houses, I get excited about the decoration part of it. I love decorating houses, so that's very exciting. That takes away some of the stress. Everything leading up to moving the house is a bit stressful because organizing things, packing, getting the movers, everything that's a bit stressful. Everything till it falls in place, it is very stressful. And if you're actually doing this when you're just onto a new job, multiply that by 100. So that's how bad it is. But then one of the things that I try to do is just look a bit forward, like maybe like tomorrow, or maybe setting one thing right at a time, because when you're trying to do everything together, um, that gets very overwhelming then. So maybe set, I have these things set to do today, and I try to tick that off. If it's done, it's done. Otherwise, there's always tomorrow. That's helped me. Then excitement about learning something new, that keeps me going too. Whether it is, even it's setting up a new house, or moving to a new location, or learning something new on a job. I try to look at those side of things. It's helped me that way too. Then, experience is also a teacher. So if you're used to moving around the whole of your life, I actually cannot stay in one place for a very long time because I'm used to this movement. I'm used to experiencing new climates. I mean, everything, So that's why I said I like change, but at the same time, I'm cribbing a lot about this 1 hour that I lost. So it's kind of, I don't know. I don't know if you want to call it an oxymoron or what, but it is that.
Do you have any fear-based change in your life? Like for me, I mentioned work before. And one of the things that I used to do is when I didn't feel like I was fitting in or being understood, I would start looking for a new job, which means that probably in my career, I've been through probably 10, 15 jobs pretty much, swapping jobs every 6 months to a year because I just never felt like I I could fit in anywhere or develop professional relationships or anything like that. So I was in constant change, but it wasn't for a good reason. Do you have anything like that that's happened in your life?
Not with respect to the job. What I've learned to do is if I think that I don't feel connected with the job anymore, I actually, or if it's not giving me an opportunity to learn and grow, I actually move on and look for something else. So it does not come, it just for if you look at it from a job perspective, I've moved around quite a bit. I've worked different kinds of jobs as well. But the biggest thing I struggled with is getting people to understand who I am. And that has been a journey on its own, because there's only so much you can do to, um, you know, you can't constantly meet everyone at their level. you know I think I struggled with that during childhood, and I struggled with that during a bit of my adulthood as well, a fair bit of adulthood, till someone told me, don't try to go and please everyone. Don't go and, just sometimes just find your crowd and be there, and then be who you are. So that, I think that's the best advice anybody has given me my life. And when I sat and thought about it, I learned it too. I don't have to be, and I don't need 1,000 friends, or a crowd around me. I just need people who get me. And some people do, some people don't, but it's okay. It doesn't um, it doesn't impact me much anymore. But that, I mean, it's actually a random stranger who told me this, but I'm very thankful he did. And I've tried a lot of different things as well, doubling a bit with hypnotherapy and regression therapy and all these things. I've run into a lot of people. I read books, so some things come from there. And I've also gone for all sorts of lectures where people talk about their experiences. And I particularly follow a psychiatrist called Dr. Brian West. So I'm kind of, some of his books, some of the learnings from the books have helped me too. And I learn from that. And I also try not to, this is another thing that I used to do, goal oriented. It's nice to be goal oriented, but then sometimes in life it doesn't go like, it doesn't go that way. It is not sequential. You think you want things in a certain way, in a certain sequence. It doesn't happen that way, because sometimes there is an element of unknown, and things could go a little awry. And when, if you're too focused on just that, right? And as humans, and I tend to be ambitious too, so these are like two things that, it's difficult if you're just that. So what I've done, learned to do is like, have goals, or make a goal that's a small, and it's small attainable one. I mean, maybe a step towards a bigger goal. And don't don't not fuss about it. Don't just obsess about it. Take things as they come to. I mean, this is what works for me. It could be different for someone else. But what is your approach in that situation?
Um, Setting small goals is always good. And then also, I think, what are you trying to achieve? What's the change trying to achieve? So you said there that you're kind of used to change and everything else, but you also said like find your crowd. So there was something beforehand when you were kind of looking at your social situations and you were going, okay, I'm looking in the wrong direction here, and someone gave you advice which actually worked for you. I think that kind of talking to people about what's actually going on with a change, and trying to get that kind of full perspective of what this change is trying to achieve. And one of the things that I think could relate to what you're saying here, like with the goal and everything else, is sometimes you can have kind of a health problem, and your doctor is recommending like medication or something like that to help you to achieve whatever change it might be. It might be like high blood pressure, you might be getting old, taking some headache pills because you're getting a headache from working and stress and everything else. But taking that stop and going, okay, what is this change that I'm trying to achieve? And looking at that and going, okay, all right, what are the steps that I actually need to do to make that change successful? Because for me, you're doing a change to get an outcome, but a lot of the time we're focused on just doing that process for change. And if we're looking at the outcome, we can go, okay, I'm going to get there by doing step one, step two, step three, step four. And if we don't actually slow ourselves down, we will just ignore step two and step three and go from step one to step four, and then get frustrated with ourselves because the change outcome hasn't progressed exactly how we wanted it to. Um, so it's always good to actually slow down and figure out exactly what you need to do to get that kind of outcome. And if you do, such as like high blood pressure or something like that, because you're working 10-hour days, and you're not getting a chance to exercise and stuff like that, it might be, yes, I acknowledge that I need high blood pressure tablets at the moment because I'm not getting the exercise in. However, if I want to change having high blood pressure, I also need to change other aspects of my life, which is step one, medication, step two, reducing my work or figuring out how to get exercise into my life. So that way, step three, I'm healthier and I don't need blood pressure tablets, which is the outcome to be healthier.
Um, okay, interesting. We moved from change impacting us to us driving the change.
Yes, I guess that's just my thought process.
Uh, no, I absolutely agree with you. Like, I've always found, I just don't want to get into this space, but let me think about a slightly different example here. Um, the when we are traveling, and I've not seen it in a long time, but as I used to travel as a kid in the car, you see on the way you see boards with markings saying that this many miles or kilometers to this destination, and it keeps reducing. Okay, so
Hopefully.
yeah, unless you get lost, that is a different situation altogether. Like that's the unknown element there,
Yeah,
you could get lost, you could take a turn. Maybe there is road work ahead, or there are a million things that could change. But
it is easy
uh,
to get lost in change.
yeah, it's like you need to control the scope. You need to know. You need to document the risks. But life is life can be unpredictable, but that's also the beauty of it. Okay, let me come back to being a little more. What is it? I need to talk in a different way. I don't want to be poetic here. Uh, I'd love to, but I don't want to right now. But then, so the things that could come up, but what's helped me is I know that, the distance is reducing. I'm closer to the destination, or I look at it as like I'm halfway through there, or, there's just so much more to go. So that's how I embrace that. And with me driving change, it could be what is it, maybe a goal that I want to achieve. I want to, like you said, right, it could be something related to my health. It could be related to my it could be related to any of the parameters like BP or cholesterol or whatever it is. I'm told cholesterol is not on the list of things, but whatever it is that I'm trying to get down, it could be one of those things that, and I'm making small modifications to how I eat, how I sleep, how I'm working, and how I find time to myself. So these are all changes, but these are changes that you're trying to include to influence yourself in a positive way. And like a coin, right? There's always two sides to change. It's sometimes how well you're able to adapt to it. I mean, there's always there could be a struggle to it. I mean, we're all humans at the end of the day, but then it's your approach to change that makes the process easier. So, anyways,
And your approach to change um, can be affected by whether you acknowledge your fears or you let your fears take over as well. So change can be something sudden, such as your car breaking down and you're getting stuck on the side of the road, and then your fears can take over. Oh my God, this car is never going to get fixed. I'm never going to get home. We're going to miss dinner, all of that kind of stuff. And if you can see how you can kind of easily get worked up in that kind of situation, but if you kind of go, okay, this is a bad situation, I'm going to acknowledge that. What can I do at this point in time to acknowledge those fears and work with those fears? Because those fears are there to try and protect you. They're bringing up things that uh, might actually happen to you, and your brain is trying to say, hey, you need to protect yourself at this point in time. And if you just keep ignoring that, your brain is going onto alert mode. Whereas if you're actually sitting there and going, okay, brain, I acknowledge what you're saying to me. I just need to logically think through it so that way I can get to the other side. The outcome is a little bit different, and you can get better at accepting that change. Because you can kind of see if you're spiraling at that point that your car's broken down, you're not logically thinking about the steps that you need to do to actually get your car up and running again. You're too busy focused on what you're missing out on or who's going to hurt you and everything else. And you're just losing time to logically get that solution going. And I guess I kind of bring that back to medication as well. Sometimes, like, you might realize that something is off about you at the moment, and you go and see your GP, or maybe you don't go and see your GP because you're afraid of what your GP might say to you, or you're afraid your GP might want to give you medication or something like that. You really need to say to yourself, okay, there's some fears going on there. I'm going to acknowledge what these fears are. And I believe, Ashiti, you've got a good way of dealing with this. And that is, okay, fears, we're going to ask some questions and we're going to find out what's going on. And don't be afraid to ask the questions. I mean, you might not get the answers that you like, but that's the process of acknowledging your fears. What do you think?
Yeah, that is definitely yes. I always feel that some amount of fear is good, you know. I think it makes you, like you said, it makes you alert, and sometimes that's what pushes you to give your best too. You know, you anticipate something could go wrong, and you also find a solution. Unless you panic, and that's where we don't want to get to, like, kind of get into a rut, or just go on cycling thoughts in our head and get into a panic mode, or feel terribly anxious. Then we can't function optimally. But then if you take it a bit slow, look at what could be happening here, then I think it does work. Recently, and I think I would want to touch on mental health issues as well here. But um, before I come to that, recently, like, I had a dream, and I'm somebody who believes in dreams. So anyway, so it's not magical fairy dreams. So I don't intend to bore you with that sort of conversation. So in the dream, I felt that somebody was actually trying to, uh, you know, choke me, my throat.
Wow, that's a
And
full-on dream.
yeah, yeah, that's what people call a nightmare, but I call it a dream because I think I'll tell you why I call it just a dream. And it was good for me in the end. But the feeling was so intense, so real. I actually got up and, what is it? I was wondering. I was in kind of a. I didn't know. I can't find anyone. I've woken up in the night and I can't find anybody near me, and the feeling was very, very real. And then, it took a few minutes for me to calm down, and then I thought about it, and I listened to my breathing, and it's not to fear, but my breathing was very irregular. Okay, so and I took around 5-10 minutes to calm down, and I saw that nobody's there inside my house, and no one's trying to choke me. So I made sure that nobody was actually inside my house, because I have to, as much as I'd like to say, okay, no one's there, I had to make sure that that was the case, physically make sure that that was the case. And then I calmed down, and then I realized that my breathing was very irregular. So and I went back to sleep, because not sleeping and thinking about things is really not going to help me. I was tired. I went back to sleep. Next morning, I got up, and then I started. looking back at what could have happened. So the one thing that I realized was my breathing was irregular, and I didn't get it in one go, but I had to think about it a couple of times before I got that I have severe allergies, and it was the fact that my breathing was irregular because it was blocking my breathing, and that's what the dream told me. I couldn't breathe. That's what it was. And then it did happen a second time too, with all these rains and other things going on. I have severe allergies, but that time I was prepared because I knew the answer to what happened. But you know this is actually a kind of a terrible situation for me. But because I was able to take a step back and analyze and think, I got to know what is causing those reactions within me. That I went online and read up a bunch of things. That's a different issue altogether. There's something called too much of information out there. That's scary also. But this helped me. In a way, the fear made me understand what I shouldn't do. I had to change my sleep patterns a bit. Had to include. I reached out to the doctor, and she gave me some medications to control my allergies, and I'm a lot better. I haven't experienced that episode since. It's happened a couple of times, but I haven't experienced that after I got the medication. So this is where I want to tie this back to mental health issues as well. So when we are experiencing bouts of sadness or anxiety or what's classified as depression, the change where you're reaching out for professional help, it is a huge thing for people. And for many of the communities, that's tied to stigma as well. So that makes the change very, very, very huge for them. It's difficult. People, that prevents people from reaching out for help, and the repercussions are huge too. So I do you have any suggestion for embracing change in that scenario, Jason? Like, I know have some experience working in the mental health space. Do you have any suggestions here?
Yeah, I guess for me, it's about quality of life. When we're talking about uh, a change like that, where you're trying to uh, increase your quality of life, but you're worried about the stigmas that are coming along with accepting that. And that self stigma, you might not want to accept it as well, but you might be at a point where you have to get help because the alternative is just too painful. But at the same time, you're still angry with yourself because you let this happen to yourself or something like that. That's where kindness has to come in. Before you think about anyone else thinking about you, you need to think that you need to be kind to yourself. We all have different emotions. I mean, we all have happiness and joy and everything else, but depending on our cultural upbringing, the way how we interpret happiness and joy and everything else, it can be quite different. And I can understand that the notion of depression that I have in an English speaking kind of background is something totally different that is going to come from, say, an Asian background, or a person, I guess, who is Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islander. I don't even think from some of those cultures they have a word for depression. So trying to explain what you're feeling to your family and using a word like depression might not be the right kind of thing. But I always say in those kind of instances, describe the pattern of what's happening to you. Don't try to label it, because depression is just a label of a bunch of things that are going on. So make sure when you're reaching out, if you feel like you don't want to say it's depression, just keep talking to the symptoms, and telling your doctor about the symptoms and everything else. And if he wants to label it depression, you might just say to him, look, man, that's okay that you label it that, but I'm not comfortable with that within my cultural settings or where I am at the moment. Can we just diagnose it based on the symptoms and treat it based on the symptoms, if that's okay, if that's what you need to do? But it's about your quality of life in the end. If you're not willing to accept medication, then you need to actually have the conversation about what the quality of life that you're going to have if you don't accept medication. And you need to have that understanding of, if you're not having that medication based on fear of stigma, of how people are going to judge you, or if that you're afraid that you're going to be different or something like that, like you're going to act different, then you need to understand that people may not be able to interact with you anyway, because you can't maintain that connection because of the way how you're feeling at the moment. So that's kind of where I will come back to on that. You need to understand what your quality of life's going to be if you don't reach out for help, if you don't accept that kind of help, because in the end, it's your life to live, and it's up to you to live it the best way that you can.
I agree, Jason. I agree. Doesn't make it easier, but it's one step, I mean, I won't say it doesn't make it easier. It could be easy if you think that way. But again, every person is different and how we approach things is different. But I think, yeah, we've gone a bit over today, over the time. I think I would like to probably leave people with the thing that reach out for help when you have to, if you're feeling overwhelmed. I mean, there are resources available, and I think Jason will talk more about that towards the end of the episode. But there are resources available, and make use of them. Uh, it's there for a reason, and if if you need to feel supported about the change, also there are resources available for that as well.
Yeah, definitely. Like, I know I talk about contacting Lifeline and stuff at the end of these kind of videos. One thing that I probably want to mention is make sure that your kind of Lifeline might not be the most appropriate place for you. You might reach out for help, but what you might come out of that conversation not feeling help. So just make sure that you're kind of understanding where you're coming from spiritually and culturally, because those kind of aspects of your life, it might be worth reaching out to those parts of your life as well, and just understanding everything that is going on in your life. And as I always say, if you feel like you're like really down in the dumps and you need emergency help, go and get emergency help. But just at that, in the point of change where life is changing, make sure that you're understanding your cultural and spiritual connections as well, because change does have impact on those parts. I know we haven't really spoken to it tonight. I would have a massively different cultural outlook than Hashida would. I know that she is really, really connected with family, whereas I'm quite the opposite. I have a family, but I'm not connected to the culture of my family at all. Anyway, we'll end the episode there tonight. Hashida, thank you very much for joining me tonight. It has been awesome. If you do need help tonight, if you're feeling like this episode has affected you in some way, make sure you reach out to us on Facebook. Let us know. Give Lifeline a call, jump on the same forums, and try and connect to people with the same kind of experiences with you. And if you're feeling in a deep dark hole, make sure you go to the doctor or the hospital, because we want you watching our episodes more and more. We've made so many now. We need more followers. Big thanks to Nikki, our coordinator within MYND. She does so much work to coordinate our internal meetings and make sure that we're here every single week. And that's about it. Hashida, have a good night.
Thank you, Jason.
Thank you, everyone. Good night.